Hello, everyone. This is going to be a great panel today, and we're going to be talking about music publishing and Canadians and South Africans and how they're working together. And I've got a great panel today. I'm Margaret McGuffin. I'm the Executive Director of Music Publishers Canada, and I'm going to ask each of you as my panelists to tell me a little bit about yourself. Let's start with Vince.
I'm Vince Degiorgio. I'm the President and CEO of Simba Music Publishing based in Toronto. We have 25 artists on our roster and 10 songwriters in addition to that. And we are in business for over 25 years, and we're a global company, but we're based here.
Let's go to the other side of the globe. John.
Hi, my name is John Fishlock from Active Music Publishing, co-founder of Active Music with another music legend, Kirsty van Niekerk. We've been going for 10 years now. We have a roster of about 35 singer-songwriters and artists and bands. Basically, primarily, we're focusing on the local market. We do have various international self-publishing deals, but the self-publishing deals are very selective on, and I look for creative publishers to work with, as opposed to taking on huge, monstrous catalogs. I want to work with people so that they have writers and we can synergize their writers with my writers. And that's very much the philosophy of publishing in my mind. That's
great. And Carli.
Hi, thanks for having me. So my name's Carli J. Myers. I'm a singer-songwriter, performing artist based in South Africa, writing and recording and performing music, and really just pursuing the dream and loving the journey that comes with it.
That's great. And I understand that you've been to Canada in the last few years. We're going to get to that.
Yes, yes. Great times.
And Julian.
Hello, my name is Julian Powell, and I've been writing and performing music in Toronto, Canada for the last 12 years. I'm currently the guitarist, producer, co-producer, and co-songwriter in the electro-pop band Villan here in Canada. And on top of that, I also have a small startup where I'm working with local volunteers to reduce senior social isolation by providing seniors in long-term care with individualized music playlists.
That's amazing.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with Vince. I do want to mention Vince is also the chair of the board. You're in your 5th year of putting up with me as the executive director. Thank you for that. I just want to talk about you and your relationship with John's company. How did you meet John? How did he become your sub-publisher? How did you become his sub-publisher? What is a sub-publisher?
John will tell you more about what a sub-publisher is again, but in our case, John and I met through a mutual friend in Sweden, and he just told me you should really talk to John. And we had not been represented the way I wanted our company as Cymba to be represented in various countries, South Africa being one of the most important. And much to John's point about wanting to work with creatively minded people, I found that when John and I met at MIDEM, which is the, I guess, the global marketplace for industry professionals, especially publishers, it usually takes place in France every year. We arranged for a meeting there, and after about 30 seconds, it was like we'd known each other forever, and we were already, planning basically a collaborative world assault with one another over breakfast. So that's how we started working together.
Let's dig into that a little bit. You're a creative publisher. I know that, and I've met many of your writers and worked with them. What does that mean when you work with your writers creatively?
It means that we are not just interested in data processing and getting a royalty statement. It means that the people that we work with on the other end act as responsibly for our writers as we would for theirs. And, case in point, Julian joining us today, he was one of those people that I felt could be a catalyst for us to work with someone like John, who is creative minded and knows that it's better to have two people working on an intellectual property, in this case, music, and trying to export it everywhere in the world. Because as we both know, the music industry is either really small if you only want to do things in your own backyard, or it's the entire planet. And John and I are very much like-minded that it doesn't matter what you put in front of us. We want everybody to hear it. And you can do that with creative people. You know, the point of trying to work with a non-creative publisher is that you know what they're there for, and you know that's all they are going to do. And for an independent publisher to survive, you can't just deal with people who are number crunchers or data people.
Yeah, I mean, sort of jumping in there, actually.
Yeah, great.
You know, just taking sort of one step further. You know, what is a self-publisher? You know, it's obviously very key for independent publishers to have representation in all territories, so that when your intellectual property does go outside of your local territory, that you have partners and people in all of the countries where your songs are being played, performed, sold, streamed, etc. You have someone looking after them. You have someone collecting the money on behalf of your composers, and then sending that money back, which is great to have that. And it's obviously, the administration is our core business, but to be able to find like-minded creative publishers, you can actually go the extra mile. You can bring value to the writers that you represent, and that to me is what the essence of publishing always was about. You know, and the problem with the major companies is that they are huge administration machines that have, you know, millions upon millions of copyrights that just seriously don't have the time to be the creative mavericks that you need to be in this day and age.
We
That's
try to
great.
make our writers individually important, and
Yeah.
line items are of no interest to us. Me being able to make a phone call based on a success is what we really work for.
So let's move things over to Carli, because I understand that you came to Canada, and we were talking about that, and you did it with the arrangement with your publisher, and to meet some other writers. So let me know when that was. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I think just to kind of continue on from what John and Vince have said, I can, you know, fully and wholeheartedly vouch for the work that they do and how they've so passionately and personally connected to and want the best for their writers. And I was really experienced that firsthand, and it gave me such a wonderful platform, and I really owe so much of the opportunities that I've had, especially to work in Canada, to both of them. So it was probably around, I think, 2 years ago or so now, when I chatted with John, and we were discussing some plans for the future, and decided that I was going to head on to Canada, or was interested in doing some writing there. I'd had a bit of experience prior to that working in the USA, writing and recording there, and John mentioned Vince to me, and they chatted, and kind of things moved ahead, and the next thing I knew, I was on the plane to Canada to work on new music. I was there for a very short time, and it was about maybe 5 to 10 days, and didn't really know what I was in for, but was welcomed with the biggest open arms from Vince, who was really just my everything. He really looked after me. He's he's giving that that reaction because he became my personal shopper, my lift, my just making sure that whatever he could do to make me comfortable and just create the space for me to write and create with other writers. And it was really a life-changing experience for me, and one that I'll forever be grateful for. It was a very intense week of back-to-back sessions, and he really just put me in touch with the best of the best people. And I had such wonderful experiences every day, meeting new writers, people that I'd never met before, but people that are just the most quality humans and creatively out of this world. And Vince really just gave me the most wonderful support throughout the whole process. And pretty much every day we wrote a new song, and we left with about 4 or so songs that week that were pretty much done, not finalized and recorded. And I didn't really know what had happened. It felt like a whirlwind of creativity. And I remember once there was a day where I was like, what, my head was full. And I was chatting to Vince, and he kind of, we went for a drive to the most beautiful spot. And we kind of had like a bit of a downtime and a creative recharge. And yeah, I didn't really know what had happened. It was such a whirlwind. But when we came back and we started listening to the music, and I shared it with John and Vince, we had some really exciting projects.
So shout out to some of those writers. Who can we get the names of some of the Canadians?
Absolutely. So I worked with Zansky and Tilson and Rob Wells and Shoba and Vince himself. We wrote as well as Adam Royce and the Young Wolf Hatchlings, Bobby Morales and Maya Davis. Sorry, I just went blank for a sec. Yeah, so many different writers, and I happened to go back the next year to attend the Canadian Music Week, which was spotlighting South Africa at the time. And I was chatting to John, and he was going, and he kept saying to me, "Carli, why don't you come with? It'll be a great week of meeting new people and learning about the industry." And I was like I'm a psychologist, so I work in consulting full time as well. And I was like, I'm not sure if I can really leave my clients right now. And I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. John's like, come. And the next thing I got on the plane, I was like, I'm going. And I met up again with Vince and John and just some more writers. And it was just such a wonderful experience. And I'm yet to meet a Canadian that I just don't love. The Canadians are really special people. They have a great reputation for a great reason. And so it's been wonderful to visit Canada twice, and I definitely intend to come back again soon as COVID lifts.
That's great. We'd love to have you back in the studio. John, what's the advantage of sending your writers outside of their comfort zone into other territories? Is there a big difference for you when they co-write in another territory versus in South Africa?
Absolutely. I mean, I think any form of writing collaboration and taking writers outside of their comfort zone, whether they're taken out of their comfort zone in their own territory or whether they're put into other territories, is neither here nor there. I think obviously it's a lot more exciting. The adrenaline's much greater. The creativity is probably inspiring more when you start traveling first and you meet people in a different country, in a different world, and you take on new cultures. In the same way, and something that Vince and I have talked about on a few occasions, it would be great to have some Canadians come into South Africa because we have such a rich culture or diverse culture that, whether it's rhythms and languages and styles, I think it would be very inspiring for Canadian writers to actually visit and do some co-writes here as well for that very reason.
Okay, we're going to talk. Julian.
Hello.
Julian, I think Vince would like to get you to South Africa, but in the COVID times, that's not going to happen. So tell me a little bit about the introductions that Vince made for you to South Africa, what you've been doing virtually, and how that's been working out.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, I'd just like to echo what Carli was saying, that working with an independent publisher has been such a wonderful experience. Vince and I, when Vince says that he's making phone calls every day, he's literally, me and him talk on the phone almost every week. And I feel like that's something that I wouldn't get working with, some big corporation. I really do feel like this guy's putting his heart and soul into it. So I just want to mention that we all appreciate that. And then, so it was obviously Vince who introduced us to Amy Jones, who's a recording artist in South Africa that I believe works with John as well. Yeah. So we kind of had to figure out how we were going to make everything happen. And it just sort of happened to be almost serendipitous that this meeting happened nearer to the beginning of this whole thing, because we were really trying to figure out ways, even on our end, just to continue working in ways that were safe and effective without having to be in the same room as people. So we were sort of ironing out those details at the same time as starting this collaboration with Amy. So we, unfortunately, it has the distance does make things take a little bit longer, but that actually seems to be the only downside to it. The songwriting has been like really fruitful. We have a great track on our hands that we're really excited about. Using new technologies like Zoom has allowed us to operate just like this in big group chat rooms where we can have instruments on hand, we can have someone producing in the background. In the case of Villan, since we're a trio, we usually try to split up our efforts. So Jared Parker is our main songwriter, and usually he'll work with someone like Amy on vocals and lyrics and melodies and stuff like that. And while they're sort of putting ideas together, Alex and I can be working in the background on DAWs like Ableton or Pro Tools to start putting these ideas into action, and then very quickly be sending those ideas overseas in a matter of like just a few hours to be getting feedback, trying out new ideas, and just continuously working back and forth. And that was sort of our process. We've even noticed more recently that Zoom offers audio streaming, which seems to actually work quite well. We were using a different application before called Soundflower that was actually a plugin that allowed us to stream audio directly from our DAWs to getting a little bit technical here, but essentially
this is great.
Well, we're working on the computer on music, and obviously we want to be able to share what it is that we're working on at a moment's notice to get feedback. And so things like Soundflower and now streaming audio through Zoom allow us to share what we're working on in real time so that we can get that immediate feedback. And it almost makes it feel like you're in the room with people like that. That is really the only downside to this, is not getting to be there face to face and not getting to feel the creative juices flowing. But besides that, like it's been fantastic, because not only have we been able to work with Amy, but it's shown us that we could probably work with anyone, anywhere at any time. And it's given us a whole bunch of new tools to work safe and effectively with artists here. So it's good on both ends, whether it be abroad or local. That's great.
Vince, you and I have had a couple of discussions about the tech needed and the latency issues and trying to get past that. Are a lot of your writers co-writing virtually now? And do you have a couple tips?
Yeah, I mean, they've been writing nonstop. I mean, it's quite incredible how prolific many of our writers have been during the pandemic. I think that the biggest thing I would say is the pre-songwriting introduction really allows people to get to know each other before they actually attack the project they're about to write. If they're not writing for their own projects, then giving them leads to make sure that they are collaborating and discussing and researching who they're writing for, rather than spending the first hour and a half going, you know, I don't really like this one melody line. They're actually going after something and attacking as a collective. And the other thing is with the time and the time difference, you know, it's 7 hours between South Africa and Canada, for example. You know, sometimes it's better to send a selection of pre-recorded backing tracks, or tracks as they're called, or beds, or whatever you want to call them, and have the people go through them and decide which one they would like to go after. Because there are times where, for example, in Julian's case, he and Jared and Alex were trying to connect with Amy, and the recording session was set for 10 o'clock in the morning, which would have been great, except that it was 3 o'clock in the morning in Toronto, and I don't know if the boys were up. But it you know, basically, if you can collaborate your enthusiasms, you know, working under COVID conditions can be just as fruitful, like Julian has said, and Carli has mentioned, in the position we're in right now. So you can do anything you want as long as you prepare well for it. Hopefully those tips, John, are some good ones.
I also think that that people work in different ways as well. I mean, some people like, you know, the one-on-ones, or the sort of all in the same Zoom room at the same time, and then other people prefer, you know, sending a track over, working on the track, sending it back, and then building it that way. I think it's each to his own, and you know, as long as everyone is open to trying anything and trying sort of any formula to make it work, then we should do that. You know, Jimmy Nevis is one of my writer artists in particular, who has been doing, you know, vast amounts of co-writes and collabs in the last 10 months, you know, but the amount of one-on-ones with Zoom has been almost nil. It's been all tracking, sending over, him doing a vocal, him doing a top line, sending it back, the producer working on it, sending it back, and it's going backwards and forwards. But that's the way it works, and he likes working that way. And I think it's each to their own.
I think
Absolutely, we've
sorry,
experimented with both those different ways of working with. It just depends on the art, like you're saying, depending on the artist that you're working with, and that's also some of the nice things that like I mentioned, like that Zoom allows for, is like breaking off. Like you can meet, you can have that face to face if you want that social interaction with the person that you're going to be collaborating with to catch a vibe, catch a feeling, and then you can break away and then you can come back. And having to like that's something that you sometimes can't do. Like that would have been, I don't know, Carli, I don't want to speak for you, but I imagine if you had, you know, met with one of these artists in a room and you're one-to-one, it doesn't really allow for as much for like, hey, I'm just going to take off for like 2.5 hours to go do my own thing and then come back in. Whereas there's definitely been a lot more flexibility in this model.
Totally. I can also just add, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to ask, have you been doing much co-writing? What do you have to add?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's true. Everybody works differently. The two things I wanted to mention was, for me, working as a psychologist in like the South African working hours, the time differences worked so well for me, because when the kind of corporate world ends, the Canadians wake up. And so I have like wonderful evening sessions of writing collaborations or sessions in studio, where which is something else I wanted to mention. It's been really cool to record in studio, but have the producers and the writers that I'm working with live in the session with me in my headphones, and they're hearing exactly what's coming through as I'm recording, and they're on a Zoom, they're on a screen in front of me. So it's almost like we're there. And we can do that and collaborate in the evenings for me, which has worked really nicely to go into studio then, or, you know, have like a late night for me, like a writing session where, you know, it's a Zoom kind of thing, and it's been really, it's actually worked really nicely. It's been quite fun to figure that kind of thing out. And I agree with Julian, where it's like, you know, okay, well, let's regroup in 2 days time. Whereas if we were in person, it's like, it's coming to the end of the day, everyone's got their own things to do. So you can't really take off for a little bit of time. But I think what's really nice is just the kind of collaborative process and fluidity of it. So for me, you know, we've been doing lots of, I've been doing like my latest single that's currently charting in South Africa. I recorded it via Zoom. That I was recording the vocals here, sending it to the producer in Canada, to Bobby. Maya, who was our other co-writer, was on the session with me while we were recording, and then we'd send it back, and then we like. So it's just it works. It's just a different way, a different focus.
I think the other thing too with long distance co-writing, and I think Carli and Julian have both experienced this, is that the people on the other ends have been really, really giving, and people are sending back changes, and they're very identified within the tracks. Like, I want you to raise my vocal here. I really want to redo this line. And I think sometimes when you're together, you know, you'll probably try and talk each other out of it. But when you're far apart and you're trying to keep things going, you know, I've seen innumerable changes go to Julian and the Villan team when they're working with Amy and what they wanted. And of course, Carli and I have a running joke that actually the publishers do, going, is Carli done yet? This is 777 changes on this song. But the wonderful part about being a recording artist or a producer is you really want to bring your best, because this is the initial opportunity of working together. You want to continue to do as much as you can, and also get the reputation that you are as collaborative as someone says you are, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons for the successes we've had so far to date with, you know, Cymba working alongside with Active and all of its people.
So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I just want to wrap up with everybody giving us a brief glimpse of what's up for you in 2021. What are you looking forward to and what projects are you working on? Can I start with Julian?
Well, Villan is looking to release new music in 2021, one or two singles. We're not 100% sure just yet. And as well as more collabs, obviously. We've just put the finishing touches on a number of the ones that we've been working with. So we're looking forward to seeing what Vince has to throw our way next. We never quite know what he's going to send over, but we're usually open to just about anything. So we're just looking forward to see what comes through.
How about you, Carli?
That's great. So yeah, more music. So at the moment, as I said, the one of the tracks that I wrote when I was in Canada is currently charting in South Africa, and we're looking at releasing another one that also worked on in Canada. There was one I worked with Vince and with Rob Wells and Shoba, and yeah, we're looking at releasing that. And there's a whole bunch of new music coming and lots of co-writes, I'm hoping. So yeah, looking forward to the creative space and to sharing new music.
Great. John, what's happening with your roster in 2021?
It's very much the same as always, really. I mean, trying to build the roster, trying to build the careers of the writers and the artists that we represent. But I think one of my main goals and one of my main missions, which is going to be a collaborative effort between Vince and myself, is I really want to see something that we've done together break internationally. You know, not just in the South African market, not just in the Canadian market, but actually to break out of both markets into the global market. So that is something that, you know, I think both Vince and I would really love to achieve. I think it would prove that, you know, what we're doing is right and that we've got the capabilities to do it as well.
And just on that, we just did a survey last year of our members, and for the indie members, 79% of their revenues come from foreign sources. So partnerships like yours are key to success. And you get to close off the day, Vince. Tell us what is happening with the Simba roster in 2021.
You know, honestly, I don't think we've ever been busier. And I think all of us should say what we would like to do in 2021. How about go outside and do something besides go outside? You know, right now, I can tell you that John and I are working on so many different projects with Renee Smith, who's in our Women in the Studios program at Music Publishers Canada, working with Jimmy Nevis. We can't wait to get Lucille Slade working with our people. Our new signing, Anwar McDonald's been writing with Dominic Peterson. And of course, Carli will send me a list of 700 more things I need to do for her by the end of this panel. But, you know, I think what we're going to do going forward really is we're just trying to do better business. And with such an artist roster that is emerging or established, you know, I think a lot of what we're doing with Villan and that team is to try and not only expand their potential as writers, producers, but it also enriches their own records, which you know, have just gotten better and better as we go along. So I think as a business, you know, Cymba's really just trying to do whatever it can to empower the people that we work with, whether it's the artists and writers or whether it's the sub-publishers like John, and we have such a great relationship. And we don't only want to do it in South Africa or in Canada. We'd like to, you know, challenge the global market and do our best to try and make sure that all of the people that work with us feel not only the need, but they kind of feel the love, you know, because we even had Amy and Daniel Adams, one of our producers, Amy Jones, who's signed to Active, working with a top liner in Norway. And I think it's the first, and they actually all were able to get on the same Zoom call without any technical problems. And, you know, this is the kind of thing we like to do. You have to think outside the box because the future is now. You can't wait for 6 months from now and say, I'm going to do this. You got to do it now. And I think that's what all of us in this call have been doing in the last year.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's been a half hour. And I thank you so much for this opportunity to pull you all together and to hear what's going on. Hopefully at some time soon, we'll see you all in person. And goodbye and thank you.